chanted the verses spoken by Avanti Brahman, Etam sahasthaya paratmanishtham adhyasitam purvatamair maharshibhi aham tarishyami durantaparam tamo mukundangri nishevayeva. So Lord Chaitanya Mahaprabhu, in the mood of the Avanti Brahman, he was completely absorbed in remembering Krishna. And so Srila Prabhupada mentions in the purport that when we speak of sannyas, as Lord Chaitanya Mahaprabhu has taken sannyas, what does sannyas actually mean? So the purpose of Lord Chaitanya Mahaprabhu accepting sannyas order was he can be constantly absorbed in two things: how to serve Krishna and how to please Krishna. And therefore, if we have to constantly meditate on how to serve Krishna and how to please Krishna, then we have to be in a mood to be always remembering Krishna. And therefore, I will quote from the purport of this verse, which Srila Prabhupada mentions, that if one accepts the sannyas order, his main business is to devote his life completely to the service of Mukunda Krishna. If one does not completely devote his mind and body to the service of the Lord, he does not actually become a sannyasi. So the whole idea is that Krishna consciousness is a matter of complete absorption in service to Krishna. And in the pastime of Maharaj Parikshit being cursed to die in 7 days and 7 nights, he describes that there are 8 pillars of material life and conditioned life. And these 8 items put together constitute the sum total of materialistic life. And these 8 items are the main causes of dragging our mind away from being absorbed in Krishna. And they inspire us to think about them. So what are these 8? Atmajaya Sutta Agara Pashu Dravena Bandhushu Rajye Cha Vikale Nityam Virudham Mamatam Jaho. So it is described by Maharaj Parikshit that the body, Atma, Jaya, which is husband or wife, Sutta, children, Agara, house, Pashu is animals technically. And Prabhupada mentions in the purport that previously people would have animals as their vehicles.
Oh.
So you would have horses, but now you have horsepower. So vehicles is also a very major consideration. Dravina, wealth or money. Bandhushu or society. Society is required to maintain relationships. People want to establish their superiority or prestige, and social issues are very, very important to people's lives. And therefore, this is the 7th, and 8th is Rajya, which means kingdom, it means career, it means influence, it means an arena where you display your skills and competence and power, or the means by which you earn your existence in society. So these 8 basically represent material life. And so Maharaj Parikshit, in his mood of humility, is saying that Virudham Mamatam, these 8 become the cause of very deep-seated mamata, or the feelings of absorption, that this is mine. And so these thoughts take our mind away from Krishna. And therefore we have to replace these thoughts with the thoughts of Krishna and how to use these in service of Krishna. Because if we are living in society, we cannot cut ourselves off from all of these 8. But the main idea is how can all of these 8 be dovetailed in connection with Krishna, and the people who could manage to do that were the residents of Sri Vrindavan. Yavat ragadayastena tavat kar graham graham tavat mohongri nigado yavat Krishna na tejana. That India has more than 700,000 villages, but all of those villages are not being glorified in Srimad Bhagavatam. Every village has cows, animals, farmland, agriculture, various other kinds of domestic activities, milk and milk products. It's all common. But what makes Vrindavan special is not just the external ambience of a rustic rural setting, but the consciousness of each and every resident of Vrindavan is centered around what is Krishna's desire at this moment. How can I please him at this moment? And so to please him, how can I serve him? To please him. So they are continuously meditating on this in Vrindavan. And therefore, that is the only thought which drives the Brajavasis. So therefore, Brahmaji is glorifying them. That tavat ragadayastena tavat karagraham graham. That if we have various desires, but those desires are not dovetailed with how to serve and please Krishna, then those desires act as thieves to steal away our consciousness. Tavat karagraham graham. If the home, we do not make Krishna as the center of our home, of our existence, then that home, graham, becomes kar graham, a jail. Kar graham is not a graham with a car. Kar graham refers to a jail, it binds you. Tavat moham rinigado. And then the illusion that I am the enjoyer, I am the proprietor, that feeling acts as the shackles around the legs. Yavat Krishna na tejana. If we do not keep Krishna in the center. So Brahmaji is seeing the Brajavasis who seem to be externally ordinary personalities involved in regular domestic activities. They are not externally holding the symbols of renunciation. The gopis are housewives who are engaged in household activities. But Brahmaji is saying, Aho Bhagyam, Nanda Gopa Vrajokasam Yanamitram Paramanandam Purna Brahma Sanatam. This is the greatest fortune of the Brajavasis. And it is my fortune that I am able to behold the darshan of these Brajavasis. That Krishna is being served by them just like a friend. Yanamitram Paramanandam. Krishna is also comfortable dealing with them. Purna Brahma Sanatam. And therefore, this mood of Vrindavan is Premarasa Niryasa Kurite Aswadan Ragamarga Loke Bhakti Kurite Pracharan. Lord Krishna appears to taste the love of Vrindavan and to teach the love of Vrindavan. And therefore, Krishna himself appears as Lord Chaitanya Mahaprabhu to demonstrate for the residents of Kali Yuga what should be the consciousness which emulates the consciousness of the residents of Vrindavan. And therefore, the residents of Vrindavan, they were having one characteristic. Their activities may have been different, variegated, but they had one thing in common. They were always absorbed. They were absorbed in Krishna and absorbed in serving Krishna. And that's why Lord Chaitanya Mahaprabhu said, Kirtaniya Sada Hari. Always be absorbed in serving Krishna. And therefore Mahaprabhu, as soon as he took sannyas, the first thing he took sannyas on January the 14th, 1510. And immediately after taking sannyas, Mahaprabhu wanted to run to Vrindavan. Because the only thing which was permeating Mahaprabhu's consciousness is Shri Vrindavan. Anyera Hridayaman Moraman Vrindavan Manevane Ekapuri Yani. Lord Chaitanya Mahaprabhu is saying, my mind is not different from Vrindavan. Vrindavan is in my consciousness. And therefore, when Mahaprabhu was wanting to go to Vrindavan, Nityananda Prabhu then diverts him. And that's what we read here. So as soon as he took sannyas, this is the verse which he is chanting, which is from the 11th canto of Srimad Bhagavatam. This is the Avanti Brahman's verse. And this verse is chanted by the sannyasis as part of their Gayatri. mantra also after taking sannyas. Etam sa asthaya paratmanishtham adhyasitam purvatamair mahadvi. So Avanti Brahman says, I shall cross over the insurmountable ocean of nescience. Aham tarishyami, I shall cross over. Durantaparam, which is insurmountable. Tamo, this nescience. How? Mukundangri nishevaye, by taking shelter of the lotus feet of Lord Krishna. And therefore, this Paratma Nishtham is described as one whose devotion to Supreme Lord is completely fixed, asthai, being completely fixed. So therefore Prabhupada had these four maxims. First, purity is the force, right? And utility is the principle. Books are the basis, and preaching is the essence. So when we say purity is the force, it is based on which shloka of Srimad Bhagavatam. So in the second canto of Bhagavatam, Pravishta Karnarandrena Swanam Bhava Saroruham Dhunoti Shamalam Krishna Salilasya Thasharat. That when Krishna Katha enters through the ears, it sprouts the lotus of the heart and our consciousness blooms. And so in the next verse, Krishna, it is described by Shukadeva Goswami, Dhautatma Purusha Krishna Pada Moolam na Munchati Mukta Sarva Pariklesha Pantha Swa Sharanam Yata. The symptom of a purified person, Dhautatma, because by practicing Krishna consciousness, sometimes we may think, I am also now sufficiently purified. I am also quite pure. But what is the measure of purity? Dhautatma Purusha. Krishna Pada Moolam na Munchati. The measure or the parameter of defining the degree of purity is to what extent one is unwilling to give up seva in spite of any difficulty. Krishna Pada Moolam na Munchati. A devotee refuses to give up service to the lotus feet of Krishna in spite of any kind of difficulty, any kind of challenge. Krishna Pada Moolam na Munchati. He will not give up at any cost. Right? Because when things go wrong, then we are inspired to give up that particular activity and you feel, should I continue doing this or not? And it is so difficult and so much challenging. So Srila Prabhupada, he was sitting there on top of the one of the Keshavji Gaudiya Math, and he was taking prasad with one of his god brothers. This was just before he went to America in the early 60s, just after he took sannyas. So there was a family which came up and they saw Prabhupada is sitting and honoring prasad with one more sannyasi. And they saw that and they came down. And Prabhupada turned to his sannyasi god brother and said, these guests, they are seeing two sannyasis sitting and taking prasad. But they do not know that the future of Lord Chaitanya Mahaprabhu's movement is in the hands of one of those sannyasis.
Very well.
So this is the kind of confidence he had. And at that point, it was not that it was a rosy path for him. He had so many challenges, so many difficulties, so many handicaps in terms of finance, contacts, and practically all of the senior god brothers in Gaudiya Math, whom he really adored and whom he had grown up witnessing as intimate associates of his guru, Srila Saraswati Thakur, had practically spent the last couple of decades fighting each other in the court cases. So practically all the various excuses which anybody could have, and I'm not feeling inspired in Krishna consciousness. The ones who are supposed to inspire me, they are fighting in the court case. So why should I even bother? If the senior god brothers who got the personal association of Saraswati Thakur are not interested to spread the mission, why the hell I'm breaking my head against this? But he just took that instruction of Saraswati Thakur as his life and soul. And therefore, Dhautatma Purusha, the purified soul, is symptomized by Krishna Pada Mulam Namunche. That is what is the meaning of this term. Etam sa asthaya. Asthaya is translated by Srila Prabhupada. This is on page 234 of Madhya Lila, chapter 3, text 6. And asthaya is translated by Prabhupada is as being completely fixed in. Completely fixed in. So therefore, the term comes Vishwas. Shraddha Shabde Vishwase ko he sudhrida nishchay. Krishna Bhakti koile sarva karma karta hoy. So Vishwas comes from the word Shwas. Shwas means breathing. And Vishwas means Visheshena Shwas. A special kind of breathing. And what is a special kind of breathing? Like when you do pranayam. So it is nowadays very, very commonly known that when you do pranayam or breath control, by controlling the breathing, you also control the mind. Right? And in the last few years, this has been very much popularized. And a lot of people are doing pranayam to control the breath, and through the breath control the mind. And similarly, when the mind is under control, then the breathing is also relaxed. And when a person is in an agitated, angry, fearful state, it affects the breathing also. So the breathing is a symbol or a symptom of what is the state of the mind. So when a small child is completely sheltered in the lap of the mother, then the child is perfectly relaxed and breathes in a very calm way. Like that, when a devotee feels perfectly protected and sheltered in all circumstances by Krishna, he knows that in all circumstances, whatever is happening is simply a touch of Krishna in my life. So then, in that state, the person feels totally protected. And so, he breathes very calmly. Vishwas. That means he has total Shraddha and faith that yes, Krishna is protecting me. Like Prahlad Maharaj was experiencing that kind of faith. Na udvigna chitta vyasaneshu nispriha shruteshu drishteshu guneshu avastudri dantendriya prana sharirabhi sada prashanta kamo rahita surasu. So Prahlad Maharaj was not affected by any kind of calamity which was brought in front of him by his father. Na udvigna chitta. Because he saw all those calamities as Krishna's gifts to him, and so he was perfectly relaxed. Therefore, this word astha, being completely fixed in, is a very important word. And that's the whole idea of practice of Krishna consciousness. And that's the aspiration which all of us are having. That in the practice of our devotional service, how can we become fixed up, and how we can go from Shraddha, Adau Shraddha, to Nishtha. How we can go from unsteady devotion to steady devotional service. Like that. So therefore, this is the first verse which Lord Chaitanya Mahaprabhu chants, remembering the Supreme Personality of Godhead. And Lord Chaitanya Mahaprabhu was very much approving this particular verse. And so in the next verse it is described that Paratma Nishtha Matra Vesha Dharan. Mukunda Sevaya Hoye Samsara Taran. So this is verse number 8 for those who are following the description in the Chaitanya Charitamrita. So Prabhupada mentions Paratmanishtha Matra Veshadharan. The purpose of accepting the sannyas order and those clothes is Paratmanishtha. So Paratmanishtha Matra means only for the determination to serve Krishna. Paratmanishtha Matra Veshadharan. Mukunda Sevaya Hoye Samsara Taran. So therefore, Prabhupada mentions in the purport that Bhaktivinoda Thakur says Mahaprabhu accepted sannyas order and recommended the determination of the Avanti Bhikshu to engage in the service of Mukunda. He accepted the Brahmana's version due to his determination to serve Mukunda. Like that. The sannyasi dress is actually an attraction for material formality. By accepting the sannyas dress, you are actually adding one more formality. But why Mahaprabhu accepted that? Sri Chaitanya Mahaprabhu did not like such formality, but he wanted the essence of that formality, which is service to Mukunda. Such determination in any condition is Paratmanishtha. That is required. The conclusion is that the sannyas order depends not on the dress but the determination to serve Mukunda. So this brings us to a very important junction, that if the ultimate essence of sannyasa is how one is determined to serve Lord Mukunda, then if you take the essence of that, one can actually be in that consciousness in any condition, in any ashram in life. So what is important is the determination to serve Mukunda. And therefore, when I quote the example of Srila Prabhupada, that we can see this particular point being reflected in his own life, because he was completely determined to serve Mukunda in all circumstances. So many of you who are hearing this discussion are grihasthas, and therefore Srila Prabhupada's example is very, very pertinent. Bhakti Sundar Govinda Dev Maharaj, who was the successor of Bhakti Rakshak Sedar Maharaj, he mentions that when he was a brahmachari in the Calcutta Gaudiya Math circles, he is known as Govinda Brahmachari. So at that time, he would want to organize some satsangs in Kolkata. So at that time, he was very young and he did not have the confidence to preach Krishna consciousness. And his divine grace, Srila Prabhupada, who was at that time a grihastha known as Abhay Charanarvind, Abhay Charan. So he would take Srila Prabhupada along with him. And so Prabhupada would tell him, and Prabhupada was very much eager and determined to preach. So he would tell Govinda Brahmachari that you are in saffron, you do the initial kirtan. He would make him sit on the Vyasasana. And Prabhupada would sit in the audience and he would make him do the kirtan. After he finished the kirtan, then Prabhupada sitting in the audience would turn towards the audience and give the lecture. After the lecture, Prabhupada would tell the audience, he's sitting on the Vyasasana, take his blessings. So Prabhupada was very much eager and enthusiastic to preach in all circumstances, even as grihastha. And of course now ISKCON has acquired the Ulta Danga Junction Road, and there are plans to make it into a heritage building and a beautiful library and everything. That is the place where Prabhupada met Saraswati Thakur the first time. It's a historical location. But Prabhupada himself had a house at Sitakant Banerjee Lane. And Prabhupada's wife was not very favorable, and sometimes she would object to him chanting inside the house also. And so Prabhupada would sometimes sit on the staircase between the ground floor and the first floor. So in the old houses in India, sometimes you would have a staircase going from outside, not from inside. And you could use the first floor to a tenant or do other things. So first floor was given out to the Gaudiya Math brahmacharis. So Gaudiya Math brahmacharis would sit and they would study Sanskrit and Harinamamrit Vyakaran. And there was one Saraswati Thakur disciple whose name was Dol Govind Shastri. He would teach. So that was like Prabhupada's home was the first, base or voice. That's how he shared with Gaudiya Math. So Dol Govind Shastri came out and sat on the stairs right next to Prabhupada. Abhay Charan Abhay Babu was sitting and chanting. And Dol Govind Shastri looked at Prabhupada and said that, I just gave a lecture here inside to all the Gaudiya Math brahmacharis on Prithvi te jate jat nagarat. Sarvatra prachar hoga. In every town and village, there will be chanting of the holy name. But I don't know how it will happen. So Prabhupada got up and walked down a few steps and then turned to Dol Govind Shastri and said, if Mahaprabhu has made that prediction, it must happen. And Prabhupada had that faith. And then Prabhupada walked a couple of steps down and then looked at Dol Govind Shastri and said, someday a fool who surrendered at the lotus feet of Srila Saraswati Thakur will make it happen.
Haribo.
And then Prabhupada took a couple of steps down and Dol Govind Shastri was also Saraswati Thakur disciple and he started thanking, will it be me or something? Prabhupada turned back, looked at Dol Govind Shastri and said, it will not be you. So he became even more offended. And what does Abhay Babu think? He's going to do it or what? And then he said, he thought, how can Abhay Babu do it? He's always thinking of money. He's only thinking of business. So that was the impression about Srila Prabhupada in those days in Gaudiya Math. That here is a person who's only thinking about money and wealth. But that's what externally people thought. Whereas internally, Prabhupada was constantly displaying what is described here by him in the purport. That the essence of it is service to Mukunda. Such determination to serve Mukunda in any condition is Paratmanishta. Sannyas order depends not on the dress, but the determination to serve Mukunda. So therefore, Prabhupada was totally determined to serve Lord Mukunda in all circumstances. And therefore, Mahaprabhu, as soon as he took the sannyas order, he wanted to go to Vrindavan. Why? Because Vrindavan represents that place where all the residents are the ideal examples of such determination. The determination to serve Mukunda. Vrindavan, Govardhan, Jamuna, Kulinavan, Seisab, Rasadi Kalila, Sei Brajer, Brajajan, Mata Pita, Bandhugan, Badachitra, Kemane, Pasre. Lord Chaitanya Mahaprabhu in Rath Yatra is praying to Lord Jagannath in the mood of Srimati Radha. That Vrindavan, Govardhan, Yamuna, Kulinavan, all the Raslila pastimes you have forgotten or what? Say Brajer Brajajan, have you forgotten Brajvasis? Mata Pita Bandhugan, have you forgotten the mother, father and everybody? Badachitra, Kemane Pasari. Very astonishing how you have forgotten all of them. Therefore, the Brajvasis, in spite of the fact that Krishna left Vrindavan, they were continuously remembering how to serve and please Krishna. And therefore, Vrindavan represents that plane where the highest standards of love are demonstrated. And I was sharing just before the New York Rath Yatra, I gave a talk at Philadelphia. that I was mentioning, that there is a way of testing different things, right? If you want to test gold, so there is a method for testing gold, and there is a gold stone. There is a stone on which you test it. If, like, you're doctors, so if you want to test the health of a person, then there are blood tests and blood checkups and various sonographies you take to test the health condition, because externally one may look very fit, but when you do the test reveals what is the actual situation. Like that, somebody may appear to be running a big company, but when a chartered accountant goes through the balance sheets, then he understands what is what. Is it not? Similarly, a student in a class may be nodding his head to the teacher continuously, and the teacher may be thinking he is understanding everything. But unless there is a test, you don't know. Then the teacher is shocked that, oh, the guy who was nodding is failing, and the guy who was sleeping is passing. So for everything there is a test. So similarly, what is a test for love? Is there any test to determine what is the quality and the intensity of someone's love? So just like everything has a test, so similarly, there are tests also to determine the depth, the purity, the intensity of feelings of love. And what tests love? Separation tests love, and uncertainty tests love. So uncertainty and separation tests the emotions of love. And therefore, the Brajavasis were put through the greatest degree of uncertainty and the greatest amount of separation. But they continued remembering Krishna and aspiring for Krishna all through. And therefore Krishna tells the gopis, Na pareham niravajya samyujam swasadu kurtam vibhudayusha. That I cannot repay, but you simply be pleased and happy with your devotional service. Therefore, a trader or a businessman runs towards the stock market, right? Football or baseball enthusiast runs towards the stadium. Whichever area you are interested in, you run towards there. Similarly, Lord Chaitanya Mahaprabhu is only thinking about Vrindavan and Brajavasis. So he's running towards
Vrindavan.
And therefore he has taken the renounced order, because as I described, the 8 items which we have, they add various kinds of challenges in our ability to remember Krishna. So when Mahaprabhu takes the renounced order, practically 7 out of the 8 items are out of the picture. So only you are left with the body. And therefore, a sannyasi is afforded natural respect. A person in the renounced order is offered more respect, not because there is something special in this saffron color. Why is a person in the renounced order offered more respect? Because the society is assuming that he is utilizing 100% of his mental space to simply think about Krishna, serve Krishna, and remember Krishna, without having the encumbrances of all these other items. And that's the whole idea of being in the renounced order. And therefore, Lord Chaitanya Mahaprabhu had given up all of those simply so that he can think of Krishna continuously. And therefore, and he did not know which way he was going. And Nityananda Prabhu, Chandrasekhar, others were following him. And Mahaprabhu saw some cowherd boys and he was chanting Hari Bol to them. And then Mahaprabhu also encouraged them, inspired them to continue chanting the holy names like that. And then Lord Nityananda Prabhu called some of those cowherd boys and said, when Lord Chaitanya asks you for the way, which way is Vrindavan? You point towards that direction, which will bring him back to Bengal. So that is Nityananda Prabhu does that. So at that point, Lord Chaitanya Mahaprabhu is diverted and then he comes back towards Bengal. And in the meantime, Nityananda Prabhu goes to Advaita Acharya and says, Mahaprabhu is going to come very soon. So be ready like that. And I will bring Mahaprabhu at Shantipur and Advaita Acharya should receive him there. So Nityananda Prabhu is making all these plans. And in the meantime, Nityananda Prabhu tells Chandrasekhar that as Lord Chaitanya Mahaprabhu is going to be there at Shantipur at Advaita Acharya's house, you bring all the devotees, because after sannyas they have not seen Lord Chaitanya, and let all of them experience association of Lord Chaitanya Mahaprabhu after he has taken the sannyas. So Nityananda Prabhu is made the full plan for a festival, and Lord Chaitanya Mahaprabhu is not aware of it. And Lord Chaitanya Mahaprabhu was in ecstasy, and he asked Nityananda Prabhu, where are we going? Nityananda Prabhu said, Vrindavan. And then, as Lord Chaitanya Mahaprabhu asked Nityananda Prabhu, how much far is Vrindavan? So Nityananda Prabhu pointed towards the Ganga and said, just see, river Yamuna. He said that. And then Nityananda Prabhu took Lord Chaitanya Mahaprabhu near the Ganges. Mahaprabhu thought it is Yamuna and jumped into it. And at that point, Lord Chaitanya Mahaprabhu looked at the Yamuna and then he started glorifying Chidananda Bhano, Sadananda Suno, Parabrahma Prema Patri, Drava Brahma Gatri, Ranam Lavitri, Parakshema Dhatri, Pavitri Kriyanno, Upur Mitra Putri. That Yamuna Devi has been completely purified by the touch of Krishna. Krishna has performed his pastimes. And therefore, Yamuna Jivan, Eli Parayana. Krishna is constantly performing pastimes in the Yamuna. Therefore, she can destroy all of our sinful reactions, and Yamuna Devi is the most worshipable. And so, saying this mantra, Lord Chaitanya Mahaprabhu offers obeisances, and he took his bath in the Ganga. And so at that point, Lord Chaitanya Mahaprabhu, as he was standing there after taking a bath, suddenly he saw Advaita Acharya coming there with a boat and carrying fresh garments for him. So Lord Chaitanya Mahaprabhu was a little bewildered to see Advaita, and that too in a boat. So Lord Chaitanya Mahaprabhu asks Advaita Acharya that, how come you are here? And I did not know that you are going to be in Vrindavan. How did you know that I was in Vrindavan? So Advaita Acharya says that actually wherever you are, that is Vrindavan. Now you have actually come to the bank of Ganges. And this is actually Shantipur. So Mahaprabhu says, Prabhu kahe Nityananda amare vanchila, Ganga ke ani amore Jamuna kahila. He has brought me to Ganga saying this is Yamuna. He has cheated me, Mahaprabhu says. So at that point, Advaita Acharya defends Nityananda Prabhu.
Yeah.
And he says, no, actually there is some logic in what he has said. Why? Because Ganga Yamuna hoye wahe purvadhar, Paschima Yamuna wahe purve Gangadhar. That even when the Ganga flows, the western coast is considered to be Yamuna, the eastern is considered to be Ganga.
After prayer.
Hoya Ekadha. So after prayer, we are both there. So the western part, Paschime Yamuna Vahi. Purve. And you are on the western side, so this is Yamuna. So therefore, Advaita Acharya suggested that he should now change into fresh clothes and offer him those clothes. And so he tells Lord Chaitanya Mahaprabhu that last 3 days you have been fasting, doing kirtans continuously in ecstasy. So now you should please come to my house. And then he says, Ek mushti anna kariyacho pakar. Rukha shukha vyanjana karilu shupa. And you please take a palm full of prasad at my house. Ek mushti anna kariyacho. I have cooked just one palm full of prasad for you. Therefore, and some few vegetables. Shukha, rukha, vyanjana. So you should please come and honor that at my house. He tells Lord Chaitanya Mahaprabhu. Eta boli naukaye chadaye mila nijigar. Pada prakshalana koila ananda. So he takes Lord Chaitanya Mahaprabhu in his boat and then brings him to his house. So when he enters the house, he offers foot bath, Pada prakshalana koila. And after bathing Mahaprabhu's lotus feet, he brings him inside the house. And so when Lord Chaitanya Mahaprabhu enters the house of Advaita, then now the description of what an ideal grihastha ashram should be is described. Prathame paka karyache acharyani Vishnu samarpana koila acharya apani. So it's described here. First of all, prathame paka karyachen acharyani. All the bhoga was cooked by the wife of Advaita Acharya. And then Advaita Acharya took all of that bhoga, Vishnu Samarpana Koila, and then he offered it. Acharya. Like that. So Prabhupada begins the purport by saying, this is ideal householder life. So various points are mentioned by Prabhupada in this purport, which is very important. And some of these will match with what we are doing currently. Some of these may not match. But whatever may be, these are Srila Prabhupada's standards, which he is expecting and which he is recommending. So first, Prabhupada says, the husband and wife live together. Second, the husband works very hard to secure paraphernalia for worshipping Lord Vishnu. Third, the wife at home cooks a variety of foods for Lord Vishnu. Fourth, the husband offers it to the deity. So, the essence is prasad must be cooked and it must be offered. Because now, as Kali Yuga progresses, many of the permutation combination change. And especially when people are working in different parts of the world. First point, husband and wife live together. Oh, that also is a question mark. Working here, somebody is working there. Second, husband works very hard to secure paraphernalia for worshipping, but now wives are also working. Third, the wife at home cooks a variety of food for Lord Vishnu. Again, the wife is working, doesn't have time, somebody has to cook. And the husband offers it to the deity. If husband no, at least wife should offer. But the principle must be maintained. Then after that, Prabhupada says, Arati is performed. Fifth. So every house must have an Arati performance. Then sixth, the prasadam is distributed amongst family members and guests. Like that. According to Vedic principles, there must always be a guest in a householder's house. Prabhupada says, in my childhood, I have actually seen my father receive not less than 4 guests every day. Wow. And in those days, my father's income was not very great.
Right? Income of Prabhu.
Yeah. And in those days, my father's income was not very great.
Yeah.
Nonetheless, there was no difficulty in offering prasadam to at least 4 guests every day. According to Vedic principles, a householder before taking lunch should go outside and shout very loudly to see if there is anyone without food. In this way, invites people to take prasadam. If someone comes, the householder offers him prasadam. If not much left, he should offer his own portion to the guest. If no one responds to his call, the householder can accept his own lunch. Thus, the householder's life is also a kind of austerity. So, this is a very interesting purport of Prabhupada. Now, how to apply it is something which, would require a lot of discussion. You go out in the open and shout. So, at least, in the last several years, ISKCON has been very active in the domain of public distribution of prasad. And many householders support such programs, and through that, they get the benefit of doing the same thing. Just like even our cow adoption program, which we did, is like you cannot keep a cow as a householder in your house, but you support a cow adoption program. So, like that, you support a food distribution program, and like that, so now ISKCON is distributing in India itself 3 million plates of prasadam every single day. And government of India is very much recognizing the efforts of ISKCON in this direction. And I think Priyavrat Das and Food for Life International, they also have distributed several millions of plates all over the world. So Prabhupada really emphasized on prasadam distribution. So this may or may not happen at a unit level in every householder's house. But practically all ISKCON devotees are conducting or connected with various kinds of satsang programs. And by default, prasadam distribution is continuously happening at some point of time or another, all through the month and all through the year. Right? But the main principle is what Prabhupada mentions is that the principle being emphasized here is sharing. Sharing with others. The details of how it is shared may differ as per time, place, and circumstance. And therefore, when you are thinking about sharing, then the householder's life also is a kind of austerity. So that is what makes the difference between those who are actually following the principles of Krishna consciousness and those who are not. And because of this, the householder's life, Prabhupada says, because of this, the householder's life is called the Grihastha Ashram. Because of this, because of what? When the householder's life is a kind of austerity. So it is the element of austerity which makes the householder life Grihastha Ashram. And what is that austerity?
To share.
Willingness to go through some degree of pain and pinch to try to share one's time, energy, resources, with others. When you're preaching Krishna consciousness, you're giving your valuable time. You're trying to teach people Krishna consciousness, they are not willing to listen. And they are creating all different kinds of arguments and everything. That is also austerity. So you may think, who will break my head against this? I have my own family and I'll take care of that and forget this preaching. So any effort or endeavor where you are going out of your comfort zone and trying to share Krishna consciousness with others in any form. So in this particular purport, distribution of food is one element which is mentioned. But the main principle is willingness to share and distribute and reach out. Right? Etavat janma safalyam dehinami hadehishu pranair arther vyavacha shreya acharam sura. Success of life is when we are able to selflessly serve with our body, mind, intelligence, and resources, just like the trees of Vrindavan. Patra Pushpa Phala Chaya Moola Valkala Daru. The trees are always giving. Krishna is glorifying the trees. Pashadetan Mahabhagan Parasya Ekanta Jivitan. They are glorious, they live for others. Vata Varsha Atapa Himan Sahanto. They go through difficulty and pain, but they try to protect and shield others from pain. And therefore, this pastime of Krishna glorifying the trees of Vrindavan comes just before the Brahman Patnis are delivered in 10th canto. And just before next chapter is Govardhan Lila. So Krishna wants to demonstrate that the Brahmanas who knew all the Sanskrit mantras and everything, they refused to honor Krishna's request of giving some food at that point of time, quoting various other technical reasons. They could not see Krishna coming through the message of the cowherd boys because they were stuck that we approach spirituality only through these particular rules and regulations. And therefore, they could not see the essence that Krishna can come in our life through any means, through any method. The messenger may not always come announced, and the messenger may not always advertise that he is a messenger. The message may not always advertise itself that it is Krishna's message. But the recognition of the message depends on the alertness of the devotee. And therefore, the Brahmanas were not alert enough to recognize this as Krishna's message. And so, the Brahmanas refused to reciprocate. And so, ultimately, Chaturvidam Bahuguram Annam Adaya Bhajane Abhisasru Mudam Sarva Samudram Iva Nimnaga. The Brahmanas' wives, they took all the paraphernalia for Krishna's pleasure and they got it. So, therefore, the Brahmanas failed the test. And then the next Indra failed massively because he could not recognize that here is my master. So Krishna says that one may think of different parameters of success in your life. When you think in society, one may think Indra is super successful. Why? He has power, he has influence, he has wealth, he has access to all the various opulences to enjoy and luxuries. The Brahmanas are super successful because they are very learned, they are respected, they represent the symbol of priestlyhood in India. But Krishna says that if you ask me, I have a different definition of what is success. So if you look from Krishna's point of view, what it means is Krishna says success means better to be a selfless, low-born tree than to be a selfish, high-born Brahmana or a demigod. So therefore, birth is not the criteria, but the attitude of selflessness is important. And that is what Prabhupada mentions. That although a person may live with his wife and children happily in Krishna consciousness, he also observes the regulatory principles followed in any temple. If there is no Krishna consciousness, the householder's abode is called Griha Medhi. Householders in Krishna consciousness are actually Grihasthas, and those living in the ashram with their families and children. Sri Advaita Prabhu was an ideal Grihastha, and his house was the ideal Grihastha. So therefore, in the last 50 years, ISKCON has gone through a tremendous expansion. When Prabhupada went to America, Krishna consciousness was not present in this form. In the 11 years Prabhupada spent traveling across the world, Krishna consciousness was spread in more than 100 temples across the world. But in those 100 temples, typically 99% of devotees were staying within the temples. 99% of ISKCON was within the ISKCON properties in 1977. Only 1% of ISKCON was outside because the congregational preaching aspect had not yet started. It was the devotees within the temples who would go out with the books, distribute the books, and come out. So after 1977, as ISKCON started expanding, more and more people who were part of society also started connecting. Because till 1977, ISKCON devotee means you are insider. And very, very few people were there who were part of society. But now, thanks to the efforts of so many devotees who have engaged in congregational development, 99% of ISKCON is outside the temples. And only 1% of ISKCON is within the temple. That is a very major danger to comprehend in this. What is that? In 1977, 99% of ISKCON was following the regular program of Krishna consciousness. As Prabhupada mentions, that householders in Krishna consciousness are actually grihasthas, those living in the ashram with their families and children. Okay. Although a person may live with his wife and children happily in Krishna consciousness, he also observes the regulative principles followed in any temple. This is a big googly. This one is a very major important aspect to reflect upon, that the overall potency and the purity and the power of Krishna consciousness movement very much depends on how much we are actually able to maintain this aspect. So today, if you go through the list of ISKCON centers in the BTG articles, in the BTG, in the end they publish, in India we have 225 ISKCON entities, and across the world there are 500 to 600. So more than 700 ISKCON kind of entities are there, big, small, medium temples, all different types. In those properties and those addresses, only 1% of ISKCON is living. Because when you hear there are 700 temples of ISKCON, so you may think, oh wow, thousands of people are living there. Within those buildings, not even 1% of ISKCON. 1% I'm telling on very, very liberal side. What I actually feel is only 0.1% is living. Because you can take the typical example of Chowpatty and Pune. We have largest number of brahmacharis. We have 120 living inside. Pune has 190 living inside. Their congregation is 8,000, 7,000. Our congregation is 6,000, 7,000. So what is the percentage? It is not 1%. So therefore, if you consider from that angle, practically ISKCON is now within the homes. So therefore, many times people feel that, how should we be going forward? So Prabhupada is mentioning very clearly, if we are looking at a progress in our spiritual life, we have to make efforts to transform our own spiritual standards within whatever limitations we may be having. And that's a very, very important factor here. Otherwise, we will simply be indulging in all kinds of blame game and different kinds of conflicts and difficulties and everything. The holy name is there, Prabhupada's books are there. The knowledge is there, the application needs to improve. So therefore, the major handicap is in the area of implementation and the application. And therefore, in the next verse it is said, Teen thani bhoga badhaila samakori Krishner bhoga badhaila dhatu patro pari. So Advaita Acharya then divided the entire food which he had prepared in 3 sections. Teen Thani Bhog, Badhaila. So, in Bengali also and in other languages in India, serving is called Badhaila. Like when Krishna's prasad is distributed, you don't say it decreased, it increased, like that. So, like that, the Bengali word Badhaila is uh, translated by Prabhupada, is distributed. And then on one metal plate, Krishnera Bhoka Badhaila Dhatu Patrupari. So Prabhupada says the word Badhaila means increase significant. It is a sophisticated word used by Grihasthas in Bengal. Whenever food is prepared and we take away a portion, the food is actually decreased. But here, system is to say Badhaila or increased. So the word itself is chosen in a way to encourage everybody.
Yeah. Okay.
Distribute like that. So that is how the culture, Vedic culture was. That even the choice of words reflected the consciousness. If food is prepared for Krishna and offered to him and the Vaishnavas, the stock is increased, never decreased. Like that. There is a famous purport in the first canto where Prabhupada mentions, if the whole country does Ekadashi, how much rice and meat and dal you will actually save. Right? So therefore, of the 3 divisions, one was arranged on a metal plate and other 2 were on plantain leaves. So one was for offering to Krishna, another 2 was on banana leaves. And all kinds of items were surrounding that banana leaf. Madhye pita ghrita sikta shalyanyera stup charijike vyanjana donga aramugdha soup. So in the middle was a big pile of rice in the plantain leaf. And in the big pile of rice, a small hole was created. And that was filled with a lake of ghee.
Oh wow.
And that ghee was percolating and making the rice. Golden colored ghee was also soaking the rice. Madhye pita ghrita, golden colored ghrita or ghee. Shalyanyera stoop, very high quality of rice was chosen by Advaita. Charidike Vyanjan Donga and all kinds of drone were there in which vegetables and other things were, varieties of vegetables. And then the whole list of description is there. Amongst the cooked vegetables were patol, squash, man kachu in a salad made with ginger. Very auspicious to read on Pandu. Bitter melon
That's how you change the
mixed
word.
with all kinds of vegetables, defying the taste of nectar. Amrita nindaka panchavidha tikta jhale. And 5 types of bitter and pungent suktas. Right? To hear about how Mahaprabhu and Nityananda Prabhu enjoyed honoring is auspicious. And then there was Neem Bangun, then Patol. All these items are described in great detail. And so several preparations made out of coconut pulp mixed with curd and rock candy. And there was a curry made out of banana flowers and squash boiled in milk. There were small cakes in sweet and sour sauce, and 5 or 6 kinds of sour preparations. There were soft cakes made with moong dal, soft cakes made with ripe bananas, soft cakes made with urad dal.
Wow.
Prabhupada writes in one purport, by seeing this description, it looks like Krishnadas Kaviraj was an expert cook. He seems to know. And various kinds of sweetmeats, condensed milk mixed with sweet rice cakes, coconut preparation, and every kind of desirable cake. And so, all around the 3 eating places were 100 pots filled with vegetables. And then there was sweet rice mixed with ghee, earthen pots filled with highly condensed milk were placed. And also there was chipped rice made with milk and mixed with bananas. In here it's famous festival. And white squash boiled in milk. Not possible to describe all the preparations. And then, sandesh was also kept, and I'm not able to describe it all, it says. So at this point, Lord Chaitanya Mahaprabhu Nityananda went to accept. And Mahaprabhu looked at Mukunda and Haridas Thakur. And both of them refused. And he said very diplomatically to Lord Chaitanya Mahaprabhu, I have some other service to do. I will finish that and then I will take prasad later. Haridas Thakur says, Haridas kahe mui papishta adham, bahire ek mushti pache karim. That I will take outside. I am not qualified to sit with you and honor prasad, because socially I am an outcast. So Prabhupada writes a very nice purport that out of great humility, Haridas Thakur submitted, I will take prasadam outside. Although Haridas Thakur was an exalted Vaishnava, accepted by Dvaita Acharya, Nityananda Prabhu and Mahaprabhu, in order not to disturb the social tranquility, he kept himself like that. So therefore, although a Vaishnava may be very advanced spiritually, he keeps himself externally humble and submissive. Now, Advaita Acharya was not the first to enter, saying that anyone chanting 192 down. Okay, I'm there. So he did not claim special privileges for what he was doing. So he most advanced spiritually. दुई प्रभु लैया आचार्य गिला भीतर करे, प्रसाद देखिया प्रभुर आनंद. And as he entered, Lord Chaitanya Mahaprabhu saw all of these descriptions which we just read. And as Mahaprabhu glanced at all of this prasadam arrayed, he was very pleased. Prasada dekhiya Prabhu Ananda. And Mahaprabhu saw that all of these items were kept for the pleasure of Krishna. And Mahaprabhu made a statement that it is not very difficult to advance in Krishna consciousness, to follow various other practices of devotion, various other methods of spiritual realization may be filled with various complications. But the path of devotion is very simple and straightforward. And it all depends on the intention one has, how to please Krishna. And he says, Aiche anna ye Krishna ke karaye bhojan, janme janme shire dharo tahar. And Mahaprabhu declares, anybody who can offer to Krishna, cook for Krishna like this and offer to Krishna bhoga, Aiche anna ye Krishna ke karaye bhojan. You offer like this, janme janme shire dharo. Life after life, I take the dust of the lotus feet of such a devotee upon me. Frankly, I will personally take the lotus feet of anyone who can offer Krishna such nice food and place those lotus feet on my head birth after birth. So in this way, Lord Chaitanya Mahaprabhu is describing how one should actually please Krishna by serving him, following in the footsteps of Shri Advaita Acharya. So I think I'll stop here at this point, and if there are any questions, you can.
Hare Krishna, Prabhu, Sandarsana,
Yeah.
Power Sattva, such a wonderful class. I think that you touched all the topics of Krishna consciousness, like I said, in Mahaprabhu, Advaita, all Krishna Prabhupada, connecting us and then connecting the devotees, how the devotees should behave in their ashrams. Such a wonderful class, Prabhu, very much. I think so. I missed one point, Prabhu, if you don't mind. The eight things you said, right? Which was
Yeah.
the word exactly something picked up?
So this verse number you can find in the folio, but the verse says it's in the second canto. Atma Jaya Suta Agara Pashu Dravina Bandhushu. Maybe somebody can search the exact verse number you can see. Atma Jaya Suta Agara Pashu Dravina Bandhushu.
Okay. Thank you, Prabhu. Maybe I'll search that written down.
Yeah,
Thank you, Prabhu.
yeah.
I'm really, very grateful to you. You have just traveled, you just entered the home, and then you just started this class. All glory to you, Prabhu. Thank you so much.
Oh, thank you, thank you. Yeah,
4.2.
chapter 4. Second canto, chapter 4, verse number 2. 2.4.2.
Thank you, Prabhu. Thank you.
Any other?
Hare Krishna, Prabhu. Thank you
Yeah.
so much.
Remember? Yeah.
That's a beautiful class, Prabhu. Thank you so much for enlightening us with a lot of realization. So one question I have is that these days everything is virtual, and with regards to chanting, in some groups there are group chanting, and how effective is it? This virtual study because we are not face to face, we are not sitting personally together. Um, so I just wanted to understand um, how is it how is it what is the benefit compared to us doing it together personally? I know there are benefits, but I just want to understand and compare the personal sitting versus virtual sitting.
Yeah. In today's context, it's very few privileged people who get the opportunity to do the sadhana in the association of other devotees on a regular basis. Some may be lucky to get that opportunity on the weekends. Others may be staying right next to the temple and may be able to do that. But whatever it is, there may be so many impediments in actually coming face to face and doing sadhana with the other devotees. So I think this effort of every day, twice a day, you are having these sessions. Where morning there is a Bhagavatam class. This is different from the Japa group. Okay? We do a Japa together in the morning.
It's
Same.
not that. This is that, sir.
Same.
So morning, what time do you start? 5:30.
So there is Japa system together, and then there is a Krishna Katha, and then in the afternoon there is another Krishna Katha.
And then in the evening, children give classes.
So these are all like excellent opportunities to connect centered around Krishna. So I would say that being connected online through these kind of methods to chanting of the holy names and hearing Krishna Katha is much better than being sitting alone and being bored and not doing anything. And of course, if you feel that uh, your time and schedule does not allow, then of course you must try to do it in your own private time. But this is an additional facility. So when we say we chant in the association of devotees, it is not that by sitting and hearing other devotees chanting we advance. That we come and sleep and then say that as I was sleeping, the sound vibration of all the others chanting was going. That's not the impetus for being in association and chanting. Even if you're in association, the association is an impetus for us to be more absorbed and more attentive. So if people can feel that extra inspiration, and it's a kind of a check and balance system, that if you know that there is a japa session starting at such a point, and there are lots of devotees who are going to be there. So, practically speaking, 90% of your spiritual advancement will very much depend on how you negotiate your chanting of your 16 rounds in the morning and how you are able to actually deal with the subject matter of Srila Prabhupada's books. So, your relationship with the sound vibration comprises a major aspect of your spiritual advancement. And amongst all the other types of managements, if you are able to create a system where you can actually be really committed to be able to chant on a regular basis in the morning, so that's a great accomplishment. Because once you do that, then it's like in the time management matrix, it's like the big stones. And then all the other things fall in place. So therefore, but with the particular kind of lifestyles, jobs, children's schools, and the ISKCON satsang programs, they are all arranged. I am not experienced in your situation to be able to guide on that, but you'll have to figure out what works best for you. But basically, it requires a lot of determination in the long run, because the nature of Kali Yuga is that it's easier to get derailed than to be on track. So whenever you feel that you're getting derailed, you can always take the shelter of this kind of association. And so any kind of association is always welcome. Of course, if live is there, that is the best. But if that is not there, then at least if through these means you can connect, then that's also great. But if you feel that it's too difficult for you to adjust and schedule yourself with all these various, calls and everything, but at least there is no excuse for actually accomplishing all of those activities on a private basis. So these are my thoughts. Thank you very much.
Hare Krishna. So we'll let the online devotees ask questions first, and then the devotees who are present here physically, they can ask later. Also, when you ask questions, if you can introduce yourself to Gauranga Prabhu, that will be very nice.
Hare Krishna Prabhuji, Gaurish Shishto Prabhupada and Guru Maharaj. This is Sri Lakshmi Devi Dasi from San Diego.
Yeah.
This class was very, very timely for me. And so I have a question about how you were explaining that the test of love is separation. So, as you said, life is very busy, and my situation is such that I have a multi-generational family, and life is very, very hectic with a new grandson. And I find that I don't have the association of the devotees or being able to go to the temple as I regularly do. So maybe you answered this question by answering the previous question, but how do we pass that test? How do we pass that test of separation without drowning in samsara? That's my question.
Yeah. I think through this particular facility of connecting online, I think a major help is there. So this particular facility gives a helping hand, and you take the help of this and try to take things forward. Secondly, you can also try to visit the temple at least once a week, because the spiritual ambience in the temple where installed deities are there, that also has a very different effect. And so it is for some reason that the temples exist, because continuous Krishna Seva is happening, Krishna Katha and Krishna Kirtan is happening. So the ether and atmosphere of the temple is surcharged with spiritual energy. And when you go to such places, the more regularly you go, the more the spiritual energy will impact you. But if not on a regular basis, at least once a week will be very, very important to reconnect your consciousness. And then, hearing at least once a week a live class of Krishna Katha, if not more. Because when you hear the Krishna Katha, as described in the Bhagavatam, third canto, Ashesha Sanklesha Samam Vidatte Gunanuvada Shravanam Murare. That by hearing, unlimited kleshas are destroyed. And Harer Padanusmriti Nirvritasya Samasta Dukkhapi Amashu Dhatte. That in the third canto, there is a description of hearing Harikatha. And by hearing the Harikatha, we are actually able to remember Krishna's lotus feet. Harer Padanusmriti Nirvritasya. Harer Padanusmriti Nirvritasya. Samasta Dukkhapi Amashu Dhatte. So the remembrance of Krishna's lotus feet also manifests by hearing on a regular basis. So that is something which is very highly recommended. So that's my answer.
Thank you, Prabhu. Thank you very much.
Yeah.
Hare Krishna. Hare Krishna, Prabhuji, Janatana, Holdoni, Krishna, Prabhupada,
Yeah.
and thank you so much for the wonderful lecture. This is Kalika Devi Bhakti from Mumbai. I had a question, Prabhuji, not really related to this, but the question that was in your mind, so I think I'll ask you. We know that at the point of death, we remember Krishna, that's the perfection of life, and that's how we go back to Buddha Vrindavan. And the why we are doing this is practicing Krishna consciousness and chanting, and that is the reason why so that we remember him. But what is like the situation which comes to me is that certainly I'm a person who is very forgetful in nature, and this unconsciously it happens trying to find the keys in my car, many times, it will be right there in my purse, I'm not able to find it, there I have left it. Many situations like that which keep happening. Even when chanting, become absent-minded all of a sudden, where my phone is, I get misplaced it. So I'm just thinking, doing all those efforts, I know at the point of death, I don't remember we will start on this part that we ended. So is there a whole for a person like me where still forgetting how I was ever be possible for me? Very good.
Yeah. So I think you should begin by at least investing that in those 2 hours when you are chanting the holy names, you try to be as focused as possible and exclusive in your attention to Krishna. So 24 hours is a very big deal, but at least you can begin by making this as a priority item. How to keep those 2 hours of chanting of the holy names very focused and very, very absorbing and free from all deviations. So depending on that, you are making a statement to Krishna that, I'm totally, connected with you and not distracted, and Krishna takes that seriously. So therefore, the good news is that we may be forgetful, but Krishna is super alert. And therefore, if you take one small step towards him, he takes 10 steps. And so, when Pratapatra Maharaj is trying to please Lord Chaitanya Mahaprabhu, Purva Seva Dekhi Tare Kripa Upajila, Anusandhan Vina Kripa Prasad Kurila. Ei Dekh Chaitanya Kripa Mahabal, Anusandhan Vina Tare Korai Safal. So basically, Krishna consciousness is a matter of purifying our intentions. And to the extent we are able to demonstrate sincere intentions, to that extent Krishna is pleased. And therefore, Krishna is not pleased by the quantum or the volume or the external display of skills. Krishna is pleased by our sincere expression of intention. And therefore, for Prataputra Maharaj, he was doing many things to please Lord Chaitanya. But at a certain point, when he took the broom in his hand and swept the rath in front of Lord Jagannath, Mahaprabhu got very inspired by that. Therefore, Purva Seva Dekhi, Tare Kripa Upajiva. So Mahaprabhu saw that particular seva and decided, I will give him. So therefore, Krishna consciousness is a holistic approach to please and attract Krishna's attention. One of the ways in which we do it is we chant the holy names, and we chant and we beg for his service. So if you are saying that I am chanting attentively and hearing the holy name, then it must also reflect in your attitude and in your actual reciprocation when the service actually comes. So we are not Ashtanga Yogi where we are simply sitting there to try to concentrate our mind on some mantra to get some yogic powers. We are expressing our intention that I want to serve you. I am eager to serve you. So when the service actually comes, you can't deflect the service to somebody else, saying that please engage him in your service. Leave me alone. So then that is noted by Krishna that, oh, he's saying engage me, but when it comes, then he engages somebody else. So then what kind of a guy is this? So then Krishna starts kind of withdrawing himself. And so the holy name is being chanted, but we do not experience the taste. And therefore, we should focus on the chanting of the holy names, not just mechanically, but while chanting, the prayer should be very intentional. That I'm praying to be engaged in your service and I'm willing to be engaged in any way in which I'm asked to serve. So when you chant the holy names with intention, then gradually Krishna reciprocates. And then all the other things simply become part of the bigger picture. So I think the important thing is you have to improve your overall consciousness while chanting of the holy names during those 16 rounds. It is not just a muttering of syllables to get a ritual done. It is not simply some chanting of some mantra because we have taken a vow. It is not just chanting of some names because many people are doing it. I, as an individual, I am inspired and I am committed to serve and please Krishna as the goal of my life. And that's what is inspiring me to request that Krishna to engage me. So you are very much eager and focused. So therefore, before we begin the chanting, we must be very careful to note how intentional we are in our effort. Okay. So shall we? You have one more session or something. Two more. Yeah.
Hare Krishna Prabhuji.
Yeah.
From Dallas.
Yeah.
Prabhuji, thank you so much for finding time and coming on the call and going live as well. Prabhu, as you said that as you know that in Bhakti Sangam we have a kids group and it's very active in the evening. We have classes. So I would please request you, Prabhu, that if you can guide the youth in overall the instruments, the kids are also listening and then we will also be hearing to your class. Because we have three groups, like 3 to 6 age group and then 7 to 10 classes, the Damodar, Govinda and Madhava. So for the Madhava group specifically, which are in their teens and are entering their high school, could you please guide them with the respect to sadhana and how they can progress in Krishna consciousness? That would be real great help, Prabhu.
That is into today evening's class.
What time is it, Sita Priti Mataji?
Not
Prabhu,
today.
the Madhava classes are on Mondays and Wednesdays. In one, Utresh Prabhu teaches the bhajan, and then one Vishwanath Mataji and Anjana Gopika Mataji takes the courses. So it's Monday and Wednesday for the Madhava group, and Damodar group is from Monday to Thursday, and the Gopika group is from Tuesday to Thursday.
Okay.
They just finished their exam yesterday.
So
Evening. You can join today evening.
yeah, so Gauranga Prabhu will be speaking this evening at 6:30 p.m. Mataji. So if it's okay with you, I can go live with the Bhakti Sangha YouTube. Please tell all the kids to join today at 6:30 p.m. Eastern Standard Time sharp.
6:30. Okay, Damodar group will start by 7, but we'll put up a necessity group and we'll have as many as them join today.
Thank you so much, Mataji.
Thank you so much, Rohit. Thank you so much.
Thank
Thanks for
you.
the everyone.
Thank you so much to all the devotees who have joined, and I'm taking a break now. Hare Krishna.
Okay. Thank you. Hare Krishna. Oh, thank you so